This is what actually happened the day JFK was assassinated in Dallas, Texas in 1963. This information came from recently declassified files by the FBI and the CIA. The government's explanation that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone with a $3 rifle and a magic bullet is rubbish. The involvement of the CIA being hacked off about being discovered running covert operations and the firing of Allen Dulles is also false. The Mafia either helping the CIA pull it off, or the Mafia wanting the president killed to get Bobby Kennedy out of the way from prosecuting the Mafia, this has also been debunked. Jimmy Hoffa, being harassed by Bobby Kennedy and ordering the death of the president, has also been debunked because Hoffa disappeared 12 years later. Or LBJ's ambition to become president and having Kennedy killed is totally absurd poppycock. LBJ did have one small part, as you will see later. All of these theories, having been debunked, leaves us with only one thing, and that is the truth. Here is what actually happened that day in November 1963. A group of hunters wandered into Dealey Plaza as the presidential motorcade was turning in. The hunters, seeing movement, opened fire, and the rest is history. Now that is logical. The hunters immediately looked for a scapegoat and zeroed in on the babushka lady and the umbrella man. This is where those two first made their public appearance. The police arrested a fella named Lee Harvey Oswald in a dark Dallas theater on a tip that while working for Sears, Oswald sold the hunters their hunting licenses. The rifle came from Sears in the same department where Oswald worked. Oswald's co-worker, James Earl Ray, testified that the gun was in the department next to another rifle that would later be tied to Ray 5 years later. The first evidence of Photoshop being used was in the picture of Oswald holding the rifle. The original negative was of Oswald holding a bouquet of flowers for his wife on Valentine's Day. Photoshop was a top-secret program stolen from the Russians. The American people were unaware that photos could be altered and believed the pictures to be true. Richard Nixon hired Jack Ruby to kill Kennedy for beating Nixon in the 1960 presidential election. Prescott Bush, super Nazi, seen here with Nixon and Jack Ruby, was also involved, as was H.W. Bush, who you will see his connection later on. Jack Ruby had been on a 3-day drunk and was unaware that Kennedy had been assassinated. Ruby was going into the Dallas police station that Sunday morning to drink coffee like he did every Sunday morning. Ruby was also swearing out a complaint that some CIA agents, led by H.W. Bush, became rowdy in his Dallas nightclub by dancing on the tables, roughing up the dancers, and throwing beer bottles through the windows. Upon seeing Oswald in the basement of the police station, Ruby mistook Oswald for Kennedy and gunned him down. After Ruby's arrest, it was determined that Ruby was not wearing his glasses and that everyone looked like Kennedy to him. LBJ's involvement was to place the magic bullet on a stretcher at Parkland Hospital. Johnson was late arriving at the hospital because after picking up Lady Bird, who was a dancer at Jack Ruby's Carousel Club, Johnson became lost trying to find the hospital. Ruby remained silent on his involvement until his death and has not spoken since. Mafia kingpin Carlos the Veal Marcella was cleared of his involvement on the grounds that he paid off enough people to get out of it. It was rumored that Prescott Bush, super Nazi, funded the whole thing with money laundered by George Jefferson. Both Bush Sr. and Jr. were named after George Jefferson. Officer Tippits, who looked like President Kennedy, was really killed in a hit-and-run accident, and the body was so badly mangled it was unusable as a Kennedy double as originally planned. So who was the double in the coffin? That remains a mystery to this day. Some people believe it was a mannequin. Kennedy had 2 autopsies, as we were told. One in Dallas and one at Bethesda. This is the only truth in the whole story. However, many people had conflicting stories about the president's wounds. The conflicts are thought to be related to one autopsy on the president and the other autopsy being on the mannequin. Many people involved have met untimely deaths under strange circumstances, but not near as many as with the Clintons. The Clinton connection to Dallas is that Arkansas borders Texas. All of this is no more far-fetched than any other bullshit floating around the internet. The only difference is that this is true. If you don't believe this, I suggest that you believe something else.
What's the idea? Get upstairs. Sit down. What are you grabbing? I'm in a hurry. Well, get going. Oh! 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 Leave him alone. What's the matter? What's leave him alone? Get away. There it is. Oh, my neck! How's it feel now? All right. That's good. Get out. Get out. Come on. Let's get out of here. He didn't do it. And you did. Get out.
Cider.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh! Yeah. I heard you the first time. Reincarnation. Father, remember that.
Throwing things around like that, eh? Hey,
Oh, fly!
fast!
Come on. Think. Get him here. Out of here.
Wait me!
To sleep. Come on. Oh. Get down. I'll watch you. Lay down. Now go back to sleep and keep quiet. Get out of here. I'll give you. Go on, son. I'll crack your head up. Go on. Go on. Yeah, what's the matter with you? Well, stow this away.
Leave him alone, will you?
I'll leave him alone. I'll get that. Whoa! Get out. Get it. Oh! No!
Oh!
Come on, right out of there. Right. Come on. Right. Going the wrong way. Why did you hit the Admiral's flagship? Why did you hit the Admiral's flagship?
Yes.
Around step. Yes.
Crowley! You missed me,